one of the things I presume you would speak to is HR using analytics to understand what's working already within the organisation to set a template for what they need to bring in from outside.
Yeah, and I think, to that, the HR analytics is slowly but surely being accepted as essential, but I think it's taking time for people to get to the point of adoption. And a lot of people look at good and they look at where they are and they recognize the gap. And that can be quite intimidating. So generally, though, all the research in the space suggests it's understood that there's going to be a progressive advancement of analytics in HR. And the point is to make each step a positive and productive one towards that outcome. So get really clear in the strategy that you're setting for your analytics function, but don't endeavor to get there in a single leap. But we had a conversation with a client in the last couple of weeks where what they were saying was, what's great is we've got these brilliant analysts doing these great proof of concepts which show the value analytics can bring us. The problem being, they're each taking data from different sources, they're then cleaning it, they're then doing their analysis, they've then got their insights that they're finding and they're bringing back, but we haven't improved our architecture for data storage. We haven't improved the quality of the source data because they fixed it all remotely, which means if they want to do the same analysis in 3 months, they're going to pull off again and they're going to clean from scratch that same set of data. So they're ending up spending these proof of concept investments of a bit of money here and a bit of money there without actually improving their potential for analytics. So what we're working with clients to do is say, whilst spending on a proof of concept, make that the first clean of a core data set or a section of the core data set. Get your governance right. Aggregate the data in a shared warehouse of data, because that way you can then consistently build and improve your HR analytics maturity without it being disparate. So I think there's value, obviously, in a proof of concept that shows, yes, we can predict sales performance, yes, we can predict attrition, yes, we can predict, well-being outcomes or something. And those absolutely should be a great starting point for people. But let's not take those initial steps without foresight to the fact that the investment will pay off double if each of those steps is actually incremental rather than haphazard.
So I was just going to say one other area I think for us, from an HR perspective, need to think about is also collaboration with other departments. In this conversation, we've probably round across a number of areas of any business, and actually working in close collaboration around that, particularly in the areas around IT. So if we take, for example, a social media platform that can be put into the workforce or any organisation, that could be instigated by HR, or it could be instigated by IT, or it could be instigated by the senior executives. And so that point in terms of collaboration is really important. They've got to be able to spot opportunities. Procurement are looking at the expenditure and the contingent labour. Okay, we're interested in the quality of that contingent labour into the organisation, what's provided. So there's something in here where both areas of that business can get something out, but it's only by collaboration rather than some territorial, it's ours or theirs or whatever it is. It's only by collaboration we get forward, and then you can add in the conversation, because you can bring finance into that conversation, because there'll be a cost control perspective around that. So it's about becoming savvy against all of those points, and sometimes the budget to do something will rest in some other part of the organisation. But if you get 2 or 3 departments asking for the same sort of thing, then you're much more likely to succeed in terms of that business case. And I think it's just that business savviness that needs to go up a bit.
Okay, so let me put a practical question around this discussion to both of you. So HR has not traditionally been data analysts. They've not been, it's not their natural game, you could argue, right? And they're not set up to doing that. Talk me through a future world and the steps to that future world. Are we talking about a world in which there's going to be a central pool of data analysts that HR can have access to and direct? Or are you talking about a new looking HR team with data analysts as part of their offering and their group and their department? How is this going to play out?
How far into the future do you want to go?
Take us through in steps. Take us through in little baby steps from where we are to where, because I think that would be practical and helpful to people watching.
I think that every organisation is going to have its own journey, and that's going to have its current context and its industry and the data that it has available to it to deal with. The very simple point would be we need to aggregate the data that we already have, right? So HR has been measuring time to hire. It has been measuring where its best sources are. Is it a quicker time to hire for Twitter as opposed to LinkedIn campaigns? These things HR has been doing. It's not that they can't do analysis, it's just not maybe been looking at the right metrics in terms of what really adds value. So maybe in each of those cases ask one more question, which is what's the third piece of data? What's the triangulation of this data that I need to make it match to the business? So not just did I hire them quicker from LinkedIn or Twitter, but once I had done so, did they stay longer or shorter, for example? So there's those kind of incremental gains, which is using existing reporting functions and using existing platforms, but gaining additional insight from them. And a lot of that will be, as David said, with increased support from getting a financial report on those same employees, or getting the call center statistics on those employees, or getting the sales figures on those employees to sort of add richness to what we're seeing. And I do think there's, this incremental gain there it'll be ongoing, and that's what I sort of said earlier about let's make sure that each step we take is a step in the right direction. To the future of the HR organization, some suggest there'll be a talent director, some recently have announced appointments of employee experience directors instead of CHROs. My view, and I know I share this with Dave Milner, the HR curator, is that we'll have a performance CPO, a chief performance officer, but that will be potentially responsible for all the assets in the business, the workforce in some organizations being the most critical and significant investment that the organization makes. And in that performance officer context, the organization that person would need to get insight and optimize performance in the workforce would be analysts, a core group of analysts who are measuring everything and anything about how those investments interact. So the person with the clients with the products, all of those interactions would be understood to optimize performance. And that would then link to the need for shifts and changes to be made. And you would have what I would imagine as an integration team. I'm kind of calling them analytics integrators, the people who currently would probably be business partners, to say, how's that going to land in the business? How do I sell that to the business? Once the analysts have told us this is the way to go, we need to pull this lever for change. How do I get that message into the business? Or indeed, the business needs to say, we need more X or less Y, and they need to put back into the analytics team, how do we make that happen?